Welcome to Typecasting.
Pop culture by the numbers. That's your host, Lucas Graydon, who was my beautiful, handsome, and charming date to the premiere of this film, Black Panther.
And that's your co-host, Murjanatu, who I still have a picture of in front of the giant Black Panther sign from that premiere.
Aw, look at us. Well, here on Typecasting, two Enneagram Type 4s, our favorite, are having a spoiler-filled discussion of the best fictional characters and discovering where they fall on the Enneagram of personality.
There are a few ground rules here at Typecasting, so before we get started, let's review.
Rule number 1. Every type is beautiful.
Number 2, the Enneagram is a tool, not a box.
Rule number 3, we only type fictional characters. You are always the authority on your own type.
Rule number 4, our favorite, we are not experts.
Oh my gosh, I am so excited to talk through Black Panther today. Are you excited?
Me too. Oh, I can't wait. I'm pretty sure, if memory serves, this was a February movie, which is my birth month, so I have very fond memories of this premiere.
Oh, yeah, this was in February because they did it for Black History Month, and I'm glad for you, but my birthday's in May, so they're like pretty much all for me by that logic, which I also love. Yeah, so this one's really important, and we did miss the first like 3 seconds of this film. Do you remember that? Like maybe a little bit more, 30
Did
seconds.
We?
Yeah,
yes. I kind of remember
because the movie theater literally started the movie like at 7:30 on the dot, and we thought we'd have time to get popcorn and snacks because of trailers. It was the worst. Well, today I'm going to introduce T'Challa, and I'm really excited to do so. So just taking on a serious note, same as we did last week, is in our timeline, we actually just lost Chadwick Boseman. We record these in advance, and it gives us a lot of great time to edit, but in real time, I guess the world's probably a little more used to the fact that he has left more than we are. And I just wanted to just talk for a second on Mike. I know you guys can't see what we look like, but I am half Nigerian and half white. I identify as a Black woman. And seeing this film was so important for my brothers and I. And my brothers actually, like, we all have these Black Panther literal jerseys that Marvel made many years ago. And I mean, Black Panther's been such a cool character for all of us to watch and to grow up with. And I mean, how many times have I said to you, Lucas, like, finally we have a Black hero? And I almost canceled Infinity War because Black Panther died, along with like 80% of the cast. But I was like, his movie was still out, and I thought it was just so powerful to see, first of all, for us Africans, to see Africa depicted in such a positive light in Wakanda, and then also to see it again as they actually address some of the very real and harsh realities of being a Black American in at that time, 2017, 2018. So I value this movie. It's very near and dear to my heart, but also to see Chadwick Boseman die, who is, I mean, such a beautiful character and display of many different activists. I mean, he played James Brown, he played Jackie Robinson, and then to play T'Challa, I love him. So I thought, in lieu of a fun fact today, I would just say, hey, I love you, Chadwick Boseman. We want to honor you in our small, tiny way that we can, and just say you were a great light, and we are so thankful for you.
Yes. Yeah, that was the word that came to my mind, was thankful for everything that he was able to give, and especially for the performance and for the films that he contributed all after his diagnosis.
I know.
It really, I think, just puts all of his work and his films, especially in the Marvel Universe, in a new light when you kind of think about the context of things behind the scenes.
Of course, and just how proud we are to have him as our Black Panther. And just what an inspiration. We love him. Yeah, cool guy. So now taking a pause on Chadwick Boseman to talk about actual T'Challa and what we're thinking in the character realm. I'm curious, Lucas, what you thought his Enneagram type would be, T'Challa's.
Yes. T'Challa is interesting, and obviously we'll get into like the nitty gritty a little bit later, but he is kind of, I think, reserved. He, I think, is somebody who's a little more soft spoken, and when he speaks, you listen. And where I have him kind of just at the very beginning, first kind of bid out there in the auction, is at a 1. So I'm interested. I know that you have kind of a pattern of thinking everyone's a 1. So I'm interested to see where you fell.
Yeah, I do. I do have a pattern of thinking people are 1s. I thought I feel like he has a very clear way of how he thinks the world should be. He is also, though, very vengeance oriented. And so I saw him, like our first introduction to him is in Civil War when he is trying to avenge his father's death and capturing Bucky. And so I kind of like stayed there for a little bit and thought, what's the difference between a 1 and an 8? Is maybe that vengeance. But I also think the way he just sees the world and how there's right and there's wrong. And I think he is a perfectionist and he wants to do things, but I also think some of that's put on to him, right? I just think of the scene. There was a very popular Vine at the time that was like, I don't know, man, I've only been out here 3 days. And like, and it's like, I think of the time when he doesn't capture Claw right away. I believe it is his first week of being the king of Wakanda / the Black Panther. And everyone, the whole council's together and they're like really disappointed in him. And I just think of the fact where he was like, well, he's like, he takes it very personally. He's like, yeah, I should have done it. Like I promised I was going to get him. But I'm like, your dad tried to get him for like 40 years. Like, you've been out here 1 week. And so part of me thinks he's a perfectionist, but part of me is like, you know what? That might have just been, like, other people putting it on him.
There are lots of external pressures. Right.
Exactly. But so I think I would like our discussion to revolve around whether he is a 1 or an 8.
And actually, okay, so as we kind of start to dig into that, I like where your head's at. I was thinking just a little bit, even as you were talking and as I was thinking over what I was saying, I do see him as a very introspective person. And I was thinking about, I think one of his characteristics, and I kind of mentioned, was like, he is somebody who may not always speak, but when he speaks, you listen and you hang on every word. And I think that's actually a really great trait and a really great strength of the type 5. Which kind of interesting because last week we were talking about some of the smarties of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We were talking about his sister Shuri and how even though she's super intelligent, she isn't a 5. I wonder if there's anything of that in him. I'm even thinking about in Civil War, right after the bombing at the United Nations when his father T'Chaka is killed and Black Widow approaches him and they're sitting next to each other on the benches on the street and he is just very in his head. And I think he's processing a lot. And I see him just kind of in general as a very introspective person. So I wonder if there's some 5 in there. And another reason, and this is, I'm throwing a curveball at myself even, but another reason I'm wondering about the 5 is because I think T'Challa is not afraid to take in new information and change his worldview. You were talking about how he has that very like, he has his worldview and he has to abide by that. And I think that's really true. And like you said, there's probably a lot of pressures in his life that are forcing him to maybe perform as a 1. But I think the course of Black Panther, the movie, and his arc in that movie is actually to listen to Killmonger and to listen to what Killmonger is saying. And he actually, his mind is changed. He takes in that new information and his mind is changed and he decides to begin to open up Wakanda's borders and start to share their technology and resources with the world. So I wonder if maybe there's some 5 in him where he is kind of always maybe more silently observing and taking in information and then responding to that and kind of living inside of his mind most of the time. However, if we're getting to where you were kind of between the 1 and the 8, I think I lean toward the 1 more than the 8. I don't know. I'm very interested. What do you think? Because I'm
curious why. Like, can you maybe, because I framed up like 1 or 8 and you came up with 5. So I want to hear maybe why you lean towards 1 rather than 8.
Okay. I think that, like you said, and maybe this is just all external pressure, but I think he's a rule follower. He is somebody who believes in order and wants to bring order to his people. 8s I see as more confrontational right off the bat. 8s, a lot of times to establish a rapport with somebody, and when they're meeting somebody for the first time, they may come off as kind of brash or bold or in your face because they want to challenge you. The 8 is sometimes known as the challenger, and see how you rise to meet that challenge in order to see almost what level of respect they hold for you. And when I think about T'Challa, he is a very, very good diplomat. He is a very well-spoken, well-mannered. He's very good at making those connections and influences. Like, I don't see him with that kind of natural inclination towards like, oh, I want to size you up. He is maybe not as like stepping up and puffing out his chest to see if you'll meet him there. He is there to kind of meet you where you're at in a way that I think a 1 or even a 3, some of those more like externally focused and externally minded people are. Like, I see him as somebody very kind of calm, cool, and collected. And so maybe it's less that I'm necessarily for the 1 as I am like maybe not as into the 8. And I see your point about vengeance, and I'd love to hear you talk more about where you fall between the 8, the 1, or maybe somewhere else. But I'm not sure, because obviously the Civil War is a very heightened time for him. His father has just died, and obviously he's working off of a lot of instinct and not off of a lot of thought. So I'm not sure if that's like base level for him. I don't know. I want to hear what you have to say.
Okay. Well, I think that the main thing for me is I don't necessarily agree with, and again, I think I usually come into this with a lot of my own personal like connections with 8s or with any number. And so like for me, I'm like trying to think of like my 8s and when I've met them, and I think a 3 might puff out their chest a little bit more and want to impress you, but I think 8s and upon meeting them, you wouldn't feel that way. And I just pulled up the Enneagram Institute just to double check myself, but the basic desire of an 8 is to protect themselves because they don't want to be in control. They want to be in control of their own lives and to protect the ones that they love. And I think that's so of where T'Challa's whole storyline is in Black Panther, right? Like, he doesn't want Wakanda to come to the world because he wants to protect the people he loves and he wants to be there for them. And I think that he doesn't want to be controlled by others. I think, like, I totally understand what you're saying, but unfortunately, we only see him in heightened situations. Like, Black Panther is only a week after his dad died, right? So, like, we have Civil War, which is, like, 3 days. But then we have, Black Panther that is very shortly after that. And I think that he is very strong. And I think I just think of the actual Black Panther ceremony where he's facing M'Baku. I mean, like, yeah, he's a challenger. He's controlled. He's confident that he's going to win. And he knows why he's there and who he's there for.
M'Baku, leader of the Jabari wisdom.
I accept your challenge, M'Baku.
And I think I don't agree with your analysis of who he is versus the 8. And I think he shows some of those really great qualities of searching for justice and tenacity and going forth as an 8 would. Especially, I think of this scene when they're, I believe, in South Korea. I'm not married to that. I'm not really familiar with in Black Panther just because I haven't seen the movie in a minute, but we're there in South Korea and they go into that secret bar and they see Claw and like the fight and like he's so into the swank and the charm, and I really see the 8. So I think I could see the 8 because he has a very similar like strong where he is and just the sweetness of like an 8. With how much they love the people they love and how he's after Nakia and wants to make her queen. And she keeps saying no, but he's going to keep asking.
It was my duty to fight for what I love. I should have...
Can't blame me, I almost died. Stay. I think I know a way you can still fulfill your calling. Please stay.
I think I can see the 8 in him, and I think similarly, like maybe you don't buy the 8. Like I can see the 1, but I kind of want to dive into the 5 because I think I can buy that. He reminds me of a lot of 5 people I know in my life, and I think last week we talked about Shuri and how we thought she seemed like an obvious 5 until we really dove into it, and then she was a 3, right?
Right.
I wonder if in those places, like, he's just so respectful, but he has that tenderness and goofiness about him as well. And I think I could buy the... But then I'm like, where's his wing? This is a hard one, Lucas.
So I think this is what's kind of just like coming into the back of my head as we're talking. And you may buck up against this immediately, but... I could see him as maybe a 5 wing 6, and similarly from those motivations that you were talking about in the 8, and obviously like we go back and forth on the 6 and the 8, you and I, but I think a lot of the strength of the 6, and we've talked a lot about how we can really pull some of the strengths of our wings, is about protection and is about like taking care of the people around us. And you were talking about his deep desire to take care of Wakanda and the people and his family and the people that he knows and cares about. And so I could see maybe him taking that wing. And this is something kind of sometimes known as the existential gap, is the hole kind of between the 4 and the 5 on the very bottom of the Enneagram circle, and how numbers or people who have a type of either a 4 or a 5 that then wing, like either 4 wing 5 or 5 wing 4, often that's the gap between the head and the heart triad, and that's a really kind of big distance to bridge. And so a lot of people who live in the 4 wing 5 or the 5 wing 4 area can be very caught up in existential dread a lot of times. And I don't know that I see him as somebody who has that melancholy or existential questioning. I think he does find himself pretty secure in himself. Obviously, I think we see him with his identity in question right after his dad dies and he's taking on the Black Panther mantle. But even when I think about the T'Challa of Infinity War and kind of the get this man a shield leader of Wakanda.
Evacuate the city, engage all defenses, and get this man a shield.
I see a lot of security in himself. So that may be also why I lean away from the 4 wing and towards the 6 wing. But that's maybe my thoughts of what his 5 wing might be. What do you think?
Ooh, I don't know. I'm not really buying it, but I don't buy the 5 wing 6.
Okay.
But I kind of can see the I don't want to have another like breakup one. So
I want to hear.
I feel really good about the 8. I think we see wing 7 in his playfulness. I think we see that with his sister. I think we see that with Nakia and it coming out, and just like that, the party lifestyle, like of being like a good head on your shoulders but able to laugh it off. I think he's a perfect example of an 8 wing 7. And
I actually had him as a 1 wing 9 originally, so even if I like were to fall on the 8, like I don't know that I would agree with you on the wing either, which is interesting. When you were talking about the 8 earlier and you were talking about his challenge with M'Baku, and I hope we have a chance to talk about M'Baku later in the podcast, I think M'Baku demonstrates, even just in that scene, more of an 8's personality than I see in T'Challa. I think M'Baku is the one who wants to go out and challenge.
I mean, yes, but you can have 2 8s. I mean, someone can just do more than the other.
I think that the two of them are very different characters and have different personalities. So, like, that was just something that came into my mind as you were talking about the 8. I'm not sure that I totally buy it, but that's interesting. Oh, I don't know.
Okay, should we move on and maybe try and talk about it at the end? What do you think we should do?
I would love to have at least a camp that we each fall on, even if it's not the same camp. So let's give our preliminary guesses and then see if anything comes to us before the end of this pod.
I'm going to go with 8 wing 7.
Okay, I think I'm going to fall on the 5 wing 6. And then we'll see where we come, if anywhere else. by the end of the pod. But
okay.
Until then, I'm so excited to get into this next character. She is probably my favorite character in all of the Black Panther franchise thus far. The one and only Okoye, one of the most decorated members of the Dora Milaje. I love her. So I actually pulled this quote from Denai Guerrera, who plays Okoye, about her personality, which I just thought was kind of fun to hear one of the actors' thoughts on the portrayal and may help us set the stage for talking about her Enneagram. But she was talking about how Okoye, who is a warrior, is very kind of no nonsense. She said, she can be serious, but she also has an unexpected sense of humor. She has a heart, but for her country and for her people. She's not a person who doesn't connect to human beings as a result of what she does. That's the end of the quote. And I just think that's such a cool perspective on the character, especially from the actress. I think she's incredible. I'm so excited to hear what you think about Okoye. So tell me where you're at with her number.
I started giggling because I was like, I also have her as an 8-wing-7.
Oh my goodness.
And that one I'm like, I'm sure I'm right on.
Oh
so
my
now
goodness.
I'm like,
Okay.
Dang it.
I'm so excited though, because I don't have her as an 8. And I was thinking about this, and I think I have a good argument for why she's not an 8. Okay. So I think she's a 1.
Okay.
I have her as a strong 1. I don't know about her wing, but I want to hear your argument about the 8.
Well, I feel like everyone listening is like, she thinks everyone's an 8.
Well,
but she's quite literally a challenger. She quite literally fiercely protects what is hers. She does not want to be manipulated. She is a strong woman. And I think she also has that little laughter, the little like, can't put my wig on, like,
Past willing, this will go quickly and I can get this ridiculous thing off my head.
It looks nice. Just whip it back and forth, eh?
What? It's a disgrace.
Just like, I just love her. And like, why would people even wear these? Like, it's so inefficient. Oh, I also can see a 1 as I say that. I can see a 1 in her.
Okay.
But I just, I see so much of who she is and how she's not going to stop fighting fiercely for her country. And then when her country and world is dissolved, how she is a part of the Avengers and she's fighting for what is right. And I think, like, I love how her relationship with her husband, Wakabi, and I like think of her like just challenging him and being like, yeah, I don't care who you are. Like, yeah, you're my husband, but like, I'm going to fight for my country. She's like literally challenging him.
When he says, would you kill me, my love?
Drop your weapon.
Would you kill me, my love?
For Wakanda. Without question.
Yep.
Incredible. One of the best moments in the whole movie.
So I'm going to say 8-wing-7.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
So I want to hear your thoughts because I'm like, oops.
So, this is so exciting. Maybe just because like I feel like I had this conversation with myself before the pod. So I'm excited to kind of share some of these thoughts that I had.
Okay.
I totally see the 8. I think she's like one of the perfect contenders for the 8 because she's such a strong warrior. But the thing that led me toward the 1 instead of the 8, and I know you were kind of between 1 and 8 for T'Challa. I think I had a similar debate. And it's actually, I think, tied into that scene with her husband and with her internal debate for the majority of the Black Panther movie. Her loyalty and dedication in that movie comes down to the throne of Wakanda over her personal relationships. When they believed that T'Challa was dead and they believed that Killmonger won the rightful seat on the throne, she has pledged her loyalty to Wakanda and she stands by that. She has such a strong moral code of ethics and such a strong sense of who she is and what her duty is that she cannot stray from that path. And as soon as they discover that T'Challa is alive and that the challenge isn't over, she immediately goes back to defending him and to fighting on the right side of the Wakandan Civil War. But I think that she has her sense of duty and what is right and black and white of the one that just really drives and guides her character. And so when she is facing down her husband for what is right, her personal relationships are worth less than the duty that she owes to her country and to her people as a whole, as a concept. So I think that you'd see an 8 really, and spoiler alert, I think that we may talk about this a little bit with Nakia, but I think that you would see an 8 choosing their relationships and their people and their small selective group over quote unquote the greater good or over their duty or their honor. But I think that we see Okoye is led first and foremost by that commitment that she made and by those promises and oaths that she has sworn to the throne of Wakanda. And so it is her dedication and undying, steadfast loyalty to the throne that I think marks her as a 1 over an 8.
I think I buy it. I really want you to let me have T'Challa for that. I want to barter it, but I feel like it's sound. I think I totally agree with what you're saying. Like she's just figuring it. Like she's just so loyal to what is right and what is wrong. And I think 8s, I always say like, oh, 1s and 8s both see everything in black and white. However, I think 8s are often like muddied with like opinion. It's more like a strong belief, like I am correct than it is. Right. With 1s where it's just like my moral compass says this, and they might not have such strong opinions about actual things. So I will settle for that. And I love her.
Well,
also,
thank you.
I
love
Okoye.
her too. She is incredible.
She really is.
I'm thinking back to one of our other ones that we've talked about, which is Pepper Potts. And I'm just thinking about all of these like strong, principled, like detail oriented, like women who are like always at the right hand of these big heroes, which I also love.
Yes. I mean, like part of me is like, they should just be the hero, but I get it.
Yes. Also
we
fair.
get that 15 seconds of them all coming together to fight the bad guy every once in a while.
We get the she's not alone scene. And then
He'll die alone, as will you.
She's not alone.
Which, oh, my heart. I do love that scene. So, real quick, before we get on to Nakia, the lovely Lupita Nyong'o, what do you think about Okoye's wing as a 1? Do you think she's a 1 wing 2 or a 1 wing 9?
I'm going to say because she is so fiercely like aggressive that there's no way she's a 9 in any way, shape, or form. So I'm going to give her that too.
Okay. I would agree. I'm with you.
Yeah, I just can't imagine there being an ounce of 9 in her blood. And I know there's some Enneagram theories that are like, you're a little bit of both your wings, but I'm just saying. So perfect. Okay, cool. I'm happy about that. Next, we're talking about Nakia as like the Marvel Cinematic Universe fandom called her T'Challa's lover, and I was like, I guess I don't know what else to call her. But they are in love, but they are not official. Ugh, how many times have I been in this rut? Maybe this is the closest thing I am to Nakia. It's just the fact
always
that
Nakia, never Okoye.
Which in most regards I'd be like kind of okay with, but in this one I'm like,
right,
might be nice to get the ring. I mean, whatever. So a really cool, inspiring fact that I found out about Nakia was that the director of Black Panther created Nakia as she was heavily inspired by Harriet Tubman, the amazing abolitionist of the Civil War and pre the Civil War when slavery was still legal and she was saving people. And I thought that is so amazing.
Wow. I love that. Especially when you think about where she is at the beginning of the Black Panther film, kind of undercover with those refugee women, and similar to how Harriet Tubman would kind of like have to work through the night to facilitate the Underground Railroad and things like that.
It makes sense, like how she's a spy and she's saving all these people. And I love when we have that opening scene when she's rescuing these women that have been taken by what I can assume to be the Boko Haram, and she's with them, and she's like also comforting them as she's saving them, and she's fierce and she's strong and she's great. I do not feel like we get enough Nakia in this series at all. Like, you're gonna have a name like Lupita Nyong'o, and you're gonna look at all of her content. Like, I watched a compilation of her moments, and I was like, this is way too short. She's amazing. And so I really loved her.
One of the few characters missing from the Infinity War Endgame duo. So I wonder if that'll be explored in a future movie. Like, they'll give a reason why she wasn't there. Or I wonder if she was snapped. I feel like that's research I could have done before, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. That's a great question. Oh, I don't know. Okay, well, I want to get started by hearing what you think about Nakia.
I'm worried that Nakia might suffer from a little bit of sidekick / love interest syndrome, as you were talking about with maybe her lack of things to do. Because as I was trying to think about what she did and who she is, I did struggle with coming up with her number. However, I have a couple different question marks around maybe the 3. I think that as she functions as a spy and just as she performs as a member of the Wakandan military, she is very successful. She's very skilled and talented and has that ability that a lot of 3s have to really blend into different environments and things like that. So I wonder if maybe she is a 3. I also had a 7, but that was just kind of because as I was thinking through everything.
I wish you could see my face. My eyebrow just went to the ceiling. I went 7.
Well, it's a little roundabout, but I was like, maybe she's a 7 wing 8, because I feel like a lot of superheroes we are going to find are type 8s. And so I don't want to make everybody an 8, but I was like, maybe she's got some of that like fun-lovingness to her, but still that thirst for justice and the wing 8. I don't know. I would say if I had to land somewhere, and then we can get into it in a little bit more detail, but off the bat, I would say a 3.
I totally agree.
Okay.
I think in general, spies are 3s. Like, the ability...
Except we did have Black Widow, who was a 2, which is interesting.
That is interesting.
And her like whole superpower is being a spy.
But I think, did we have a 2 wing 3 or?
I think we had a wing 1. I feel like we did look
too.
It up.
Okay. Don't. Let me finish my logic and then we can question
Sorry.
it. I was just saying the fact that I think that when we, like, 3 being the chameleon, being a charmer, like, being able to just change who they are. And you know what? I will say, I think once we see the actual Black Widow movie, we might change our opinion on who she is. But, like, she is, by the time we get to know her as a character, you know, like in Iron Man, I could say we might have believed she was a 3. By the time we get to know her, I think maybe part of the reason she is a part of S.H.I.E.L.D. and kind of drops the spy life is, like, she is who she is. And I think that might be something that we could talk about at a later date.
Interesting.
But I think Nakia just, like, being able to, she's incredibly skilled at what she's doing. And she's working for one of the, you know, I hate to say the top spy agency of the world but like Wakanda's like not caught at all in the fact that they are thriving.
Yes, right.
So I feel like she deserves a lot. Like they all war dogs deserve a lot of credit. And so I think that she's probably just super good at what she does. I think we know that she is, of the council. Like, we see that she does not choose to go up against Black Panther, so she's probably a princess of some sort. We don't really get into a ton of detail on how those people are selected or what their role is, but I think she could have just kind of chilled and hung out, and instead she decided to be a spy and be a really good one. And I think she's able to bend over backwards and fool people into loving her, and I think she's a 3.
Okay. I like it. I would say she's probably a 3 wing too. But I just think about the way that she cares for Shuri and the Queen of Wakanda after T'Challa's apparent death, and her strong connections to that family and her ability to care for other people. I think that she kind of wings literally toward that helper. But I can definitely see that wing 3. I also think I
also can see the 4 though. Like, because this is the thing that's interesting with the 2 and the 4 when we're not like deep into them. Like, I think sometimes we look alike, right? 4s are deeply empathetic, and I think I would see her more as empathetic, but I don't think she does the self-forgetting that a 2 might do. And obviously she's a 3, so that's not like her one role. But I'm saying I can totally see the 4 and the fact, like, dude, I'm not gonna marry you. Like, I just like, and I just hold withdrawn in that way, in that sense. And I think she romanticizes the idea, the independence, and like, but also that she romanticizes the idea of opening up the gates when it's like, I can see 3-wing 4 in her just as easily as I can see 3-wing 2. I'm not saying I'm one or the other, but I'm just saying, like, before we just like commit to 3-wing 2, I would ponder the 3-wing 4. And I think that, like, not just the independence, I do think that takes away from the wing 2, but just like, this is the freaking king and she's saying no. And I think it's because he's the king. Like, I think that has a lot. She's like, I'm not going to be your queen. Like, everyone wants you. Like, I'm going to make you want it. Like, I think that's such a 4 thing.
I don't know, because 4s also, and I'm saying this as a 4, speaking to a 4, our favorite, we have a deep love of significance. And like, if a king asked me tomorrow to marry him, like, yes, put me on the throne. Like, what kind of significance is there above like being special, the woman and being
who
like
rejected
chosen
the
and
king?
Being, like, yeah, but nobody knows you rejected the king. They do
I
know
think everyone
when you're
knows.
Like queen of Wakanda.
I think everyone sees them walking around and they know. I mean, I guess Wakanda's bigger than the. I am not married to it, but I just think it's a good.
I think that's a fair counterpoint. Like, I think it could definitely maybe fall either way, and I think I can see some of that 4, but I think that like a 3-wing 4 could also love the idea of being queen. Like, there's I'm trying to think, and this is going to showcase my lack of knowledge when it comes to the makeup of the US government, but like 3s often are politicians, right? They really excel in settings like that, where I think a 3-wing 4 would rather be a senator, because there's only one senator per state, if that's correct. And then like a 3-wing 2 is like, sure, I'll be a representative. Like, there's multiple of us, but oh well. Like, I do think that there's maybe like some of the wing 4 that likes attention as much as the 3 does too. Like, I wonder where some of that comes in. It's interesting to think about the way that the 4 and the 2 look when they function as wings instead of as like,
I know,
types.
That's exactly what I was thinking, because I was like, oh, but the 3 might influence that part of it. I don't know. Well, I think I'll settle on the 2.
You just want to give me the wing 2 so that I give you T'Challa.
You knew, you took the words out of my mouth. I'm not against this. I'm not against the 5-wing 6. I'm really not. He does actually kind of remind me of my cousin. Shout out, Khalid. How you doing? He does, and I'm like, maybe. Like, I can see it. Like, I'm not against it. The 5-wing 6. I just think it'd be interesting to see like Shuri and T'Challa's relationship, understanding the fact that like she's smarter than him, but he's a 5.
Right. Well, and I think that we talked a little bit last week about the fact that 5s can be 5s. You can be a type 5 without having a 4.0 GPA. You can be a type 5 without being valedictorian or the smartest person in your class. Like, there are so many values and merits to the type 5 beyond just natural born intelligence, which I think is what makes Shuri such a great example of somebody who's not a type 5, even though she's literally the smartest person on earth. So I think vice versa, T'Challa doesn't have to be the smartest person in his family to be a type 5. I'm trying actually to look at our college friends sheet of who we said was who to see who we had as T'Challa, but I'm not sure it's giving me any more help either. So I could also see the wing 4. You were talking about the wing 4, and I'm thinking about some of the 5 wing 4s in my life that I love, and I can definitely see some similarities with T'Challa. So, would you be more willing to go to the 5 if it was the wing 4? Like, do you think that you resonate with that more than you resonate with the wing 6?
I think the fact that we have to find a wing for him is one of the hardest parts of me picking a 5. Like, I don't mind the 5. It's that I don't think he's a wing 6 or wing 4.
Well, and I mean, as you were talking about, and there are so many more resources than we are equipped to share with you all listeners, but there are different Enneagram theories about how the wings work. And I think some theories can say that you transition from one wing to the other over the course of your life, or you borrow from both wings at different times, or maybe you are so, like, maybe he is just so rooted in his 5 that he has like a wing to the 6, but he almost never uses it, you know, or to the 4, you know. Like, I think that the beauty of the Enneagram is that there is variability. There's not, off the top of my head, rule number 2 is that the Enneagram is a tool, not a box. So there's so many uses for it, and it's not always just a clean cut cookie cutter box of what you look like or how you fit into that.
I think we've finally found our second person that we can't decide, though.
Okay. Then we will have to put him down in the records.
I cannot wait for the people to tell us what they think.
Back and forth. I know. You all need to get in touch. Tell us what you think. Obviously, the Tony debate is still raging, but now we get to add T'Challa to the mix.
Okay.
Oh,
all
great.
right. Well, this was a great discussion. I really appreciated our time today.
Yes, I had so much fun kind of diving into the world of Wakanda.
Exactly. Now, let us know what you think. I'm actually super, super curious. Let us know. You can find us on our socials at Typecasting on Twitter and Instagram, or email us on typecastingpod@gmail.com, or our website where you can find all things typecasting, typecastingpod.com.
Yes, and be sure to leave a great review in the podcast app of your choice. Then you can find Murjanatu and I all over the internet. Murjanatu you can get in touch with on Twitter at Murjana, the number 2 _ and at Murjana, the number 2 on Instagram. And then you can find me, my work, my contact information all on lucasgraydon.com. Thank you so much for listening. We are so excited for next week when we get to dive into Peter Parker and some of his friends by the numbers. 8,
9,
10. Maybe we should only count to 9, like, for the brand.
For the brand. FBW. Wait, for the FTB.
FTB. Okay, ready?
Yep.
Boom. Boom. Welcome to Typecasting.
Pop culture by the numbers. Oh, can you start again? I'm so sorry. I don't know why I just was like, okay, say that's your host, Lucas Graydon, and then my brain went, you idiot. Okay. I'm reading it. And I saw your name, so I thought you would say it. Okay. Go ahead. From the top.
Make it drop. Okay. She is probably my favorite character in all of the Black Panther franchise. Thank you so much for this. Sorry, nope. I'm going to do that again. Thank you so much for listening. Nope, I sounded weird. Sorry. One last time. There's a reason I'm not Leslie Odom Jr.